Welcome back everyone to Game of the Week, a series where each week I'll be taking a niche and unpopular Roblox game and reviewing it. And if I miss a single week of uploading, the series will end. As always, each game that I review will be linked down in the description below, so if you want to play the game, all you have to do is scroll down and click on the first link you see in the description. So without any further dilly-dallying, this week's Game of the Week is... Critical Tower Defense 2. Now before I get into this game, it's worth noting that if you actually want to play it, you have to join the game's group, because if you don't join the group, you will not have access to the game. The little play button will be blocked, so make sure you join the group before you go and play it. But with that out of the way, yeah, today I'm covering Critical Tower Defense 2, and by the title of the game, you can probably deduce that it's another tower defense game, and this one is really unique. Maybe even more unique than Spellbound Defense, although I can see the argument going either way for which game is more complex and cooler. But yeah, Critical Tower Defense 2, as you can imagine, is the sequel to the original Critical Tower Defense, which got discontinued quite a bit ago. And take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, because I'm not exactly sure why Critical Tower Defense 1 got discontinued myself. But from what I heard, one of the major reasons why it got discontinued is because the developer of the game was really concerned, I guess, about the fact that Critical Tower Defense 1 didn't have like its own unique gameplay mechanic. You know, it kind of played like how every other tower defense game plays, where you place down towers and enemies come down the path, and if you leak enough lives, you die. And I mean, even without any really special mechanics, I do think that Critical Tower Defense 1 was a really fun game, and it used to be my favorite, my go-to tower defense game in Roblox for a little while. But I mean, this new one, even though it's in early access, it looks like it has the potential to be even better than the first game. So, what kind of unique, cool, awesome, amazing, original feature that the developer added into this game that wasn't present in Critical Tower Defense 1, you may be asking? And well, that feature is gambling! Woohoo! No, I'm kidding, it's not gambling, okay? It's not gambling. The actual feature that he added in the game that wasn't in Critical Tower Defense 1 is being able to place your towers down on the path, which might not seem too crazy or too original. I mean, it is still pretty original, considering the fact that, you know, most tower defense games, both in and outside of Roblox, only have the option to place your towers outside of the path, unless you're playing like Kingdom Rush or something. But outside of Kingdom Rush, it still is a pretty original mechanic, and what makes it even better than a game like Kingdom Rush, for example, is the fact that when you place your tower on the road, and when you place it outside of the road, they do slightly different things depending on where you place them. So for example, there are some towers that benefit from being placed on the road and like actually taking damage from enemies. Because most enemies, like 99% of the enemies, unless they're a boss, will only be able to damage your tower if your tower is standing directly in front of them on the road. And there are some towers like Renegade, for example, which benefits from taking damage, where if it takes enough damage, it will start doing more damage, and you can parry the enemy's attacks with it. And when you parry the attacks, you gain like special status attacks that buff your towers and all that stuff. And then obviously, if you place your towers outside of the road, on like, you know, the regular terrain, where your tower is not blocking any enemies, the tower will not get any of those buffs, but it will, you know, basically be invincible for most of the game. It will not take any damage, and it will be under relatively minor threats, you know, when it comes to enemies slashing your towers and trying to attack them. Not placing your towers directly on the road also comes with the added benefits of your tower usually having a better line of sight and more like functioning range, if that makes sense. Because when you place your tower directly on the road, like let's take a long-range tower, for example, like not even a melee tower. Let's take a long-range tower like Archer, for example. If you place an Archer directly on the road, it will realistically only be able to shoot enemies on the path directly in front of itself, right? Because obviously if an enemy's behind the Archer, then it most likely had to kill the Archer in order to get behind it, if that makes sense. So its effective range is basically only like right in front of it, pretty much. So placing a tower like the archer, for example, like a ranged tower outside of the road, allows the said tower to shoot left and right and up and down and sideways and in front of it and behind it and in all sorts of different directions. So yeah, those are pretty much the two main reasons that you'd want to place your towers outside the road instead of inside of the road. And the towers that you mostly want to do that with are usually support towers, like, you know, priests, which can heal other towers on the road that are actively taking damage every wave, or archers, like I said, or ranged towers that can, you know, have a really good effective range if you place them somewhere where they can't be as easily attacked. So you might be wondering, why the hell do I want to place a tower inside of the road then at all, if placing it outside of the road comes with all those great benefits? And the reason for that is because placing a tower on the road where it can be attacked by enemies comes with its own set of benefits. Like I mentioned before, there are certain towers that just benefit from hand-to-hand combat with enemies, like the Renegade Tower, which at lower HP does more damage. But even outside of that, there's really good reasons to be putting your towers directly on the road. And again, as opposed to ranged towers, which benefit from being outside the road, melee towers usually benefit from being inside of the road. And there's two factors that contribute to that being a good decision. The first factor is obviously the maps in this game being really short and the enemies moving really fast. So if you just have nothing to block the enemies, then the enemies are just gonna steamroll through your defense and like just run past all your towers that are outside of the road, and they're just gonna, you know, get to the exit and you're gonna lose in like wave 2 pretty much. Now, outside of stalling, there's another factor that plays into why you want to place your towers on the road where they can be easily damaged. And that other factor is that placing your towers on the road lets you stall more. This is where parrying comes into play, ladies and gents. So, this game has a secret cool little mechanic where if you predict an enemy's attack, like when they're gonna throw a punch or slash their sword or use whatever the hell of a weapon they have, if you predict when they're gonna hit your tower, you can quickly hover over that tower and hit G on your keyboard, and that will make that tower parry. Which is basically what parrying does, is if you do a perfect parry, it nullifies all the damage that the enemy would have done to your tower otherwise, which is really useful against like bosses or really strong enemies that can just straight up one-shot you. Now, different towers come with different parrying abilities. Most of the towers in the game just have a parrying ability where you block for a short period of time, and if the enemy hits you while you're blocking, you parry their attack and your tower is safe. But some other towers have a mechanic where if you click the parry button, they do something special, you know. They take away their HP if they're like Renegade, who benefits from having less HP, or, for example, the Archer, who shoots a big volley of arrows like fucking Quincy from PDD6 when you click his parry button. But most of the towers, when you click their parry button, they just block for a short amount of time. And this ability is really, really, really useful. I cannot overstate how useful parrying is in this game, especially when you're dealing with bosses, and hell, even mini-bosses. When you're dealing with strong enemies in general, parrying comes in super, super, super handy. Because obviously, a lot of the bosses in the later game are gonna pretty much be able to like 1 or 2 shot your towers. So being able to block their attack for just 1 attack more is usually enough to save you from utter catastrophe, where the boss just fucking steams through everything and you know, kills all your towers and just depletes your base of all of its HP. And the best part about parrying is that usually, like 90% of the time, sometimes this is not the case, but 90% of the time, the enemies that have the ability to one-shot you usually have like this big winding attack that they gotta recharge for like 10 seconds before they unleash it to one-shot your tower. And they probably have like a secondary attack that does a little bit less damage. So, you know, it's not like they just spam their big, strong one-shotting attack and they just, like, mow through all your towers even if you parry. It's that when you parry an attack from a boss that's like one of those big winding attacks that I just mentioned with a cooldown, when you parry one of those attacks, that saves you, like, 10 seconds worth of time. And in those 10 seconds, your towers and your teammates' towers and the surrounding towers of the tower that you pair the attack with have the ability to get a couple extra shots in, which, as I mentioned before, is really, really useful, especially with the tougher bosses. But yeah, like I mentioned before, parrying has all sorts of different effects with different towers, so I suggest after you get a new tower and you want to test it out, you read all of its effects and abilities in the lobby so that you can better decide whether you want to put it on the road or not on the road. And trust me, you're gonna be spending quite a while reading about all these tower statistics in the lobby, because this game has just about the same amount of reading as fucking Limbus Company. And if you're a Limbus Company fan, you know what, maybe this game is not for you, actually. Yeah, listen, pal, I know you just spammed the win rate button and you hope for the best, and you don't really read any of the abilities. You know, no shame, because I do it too. But if you do that, maybe you should stay away from this game. But if you don't do that, and you're a Limbus Company player, and you're the fucking star example that reads all the fucking character moves and what they do, and doesn't just spam the win rate button, then yeah, this game is for you. But yeah, going back to the lobby, the other unique feature that I was only half joking about at the start of the video that this game added to set itself apart from Critical Tower Defense 1 is gambling. And you all know how I feel about gambling, and if you don't know how I feel about gambling, then I feel pretty bad about gambling, okay? I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like having to gamble in Roblox games, and I especially don't like having to gamble in tower defense games, because usually when a tower defense game adds gambling for towers into its gameplay, then the game becomes less about forming a strategy and like playing really well and, you know, trying your best to beat a level, and becomes more about just grinding out money until you eventually get lucky enough in the gacha to get like a super overpowered tower, and then you just stomp through everything and nothing is a challenge ever. Now, fortunately, Critical Tower Defense is not exactly like that. Outside of the gambling, it has a little shop where you can just outright buy towers for money. So even if you live in a country that prohibits Roblox gambling, you can still play the game, and you know, you can still earn your towers outside of the gacha. But like I mentioned before, things tend to get a little out of hand when it comes to power creep when games start deciding to add these gacha systems into them. But fortunately, with Critical Tower Defense 2, that is not the case. I feel like every tower is pretty well balanced, you know. Obviously, legendary towers are better than common towers, but every tower so far has its own unique use, you know. Even the common towers, even the starter tower of the game, the very basic bitch-ass, bum-ass tower that you start out with, even that tower has a use in the early game, where common towers are... Well, it's usually a rule with this game that common towers are usually better in the early game, while, you know, legendary towers and mythical towers and all that are better in the late game. But I feel like all the towers are still pretty well balanced in the game. I feel like they all still have a use, you know. There's not a huge wide selection of towers like with Tower Defense Simulator. I think there's maybe only like, I don't know, 20 towers maybe in the game or something like that, but there's still quite a good variety, and these still are all versatile in their own unique ways. So yeah, I don't think that power creep is really gonna be a problem in this game, especially with the tier up system that the game has, where if you go to the lobby, you can tier up your towers to basically give them little permanent buffs that will always stay with them in every single game, that you don't have to like buy with actual cash that you get from killing enemies, and you buy with coins that you get inside the lobby that you buy towers with, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I think that tier up system is gonna come in pretty handy when it comes to keeping things in check when it comes to power creep and all that good stuff. But yeah, the only real issue, I guess, that I have with the game right now, and it's alpha stage, or whatever the hell this stage is, because the game is still very early on in development, but the only problem that I have with the game, really, in its current stage of development, is that I think the tokens, the little black coins that you get, are a little bit too hard to get in the game. And to be fair, the developer of the game has been working to fix that issue. the developer of the game said that we are gonna have more ways to get those little black tokens in the future that we can use to buy legendary towers with and buy more powerful towers with and all that stuff. I mean, to be fair, I do get that tokens are supposed to be a more premium currency and they're supposed to be rarer than coins, and you aren't supposed to be exactly hoarding them like you hoard coins. But I still do think that, you know, it would be nice if they were just a little bit easier to get, because I do think they're a tiny bit too grindy. But like I said before, the developer has said that we're going to get more ways to get those Johns in the future, so I'm excited to see what the future brings. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the game. It has some cool references, like the coin table from Pixel Gun Tower Defense 3. Where you can get a free coin every so often that ranges from 1 to 5. You know, and a lot of people use that table to AFK grind all night, including myself. And honestly, for some reason, I've actually been seeing a lot of hate towards the players that use the free coin table to just like grind coins all night while they're sleeping. Which I mean, like, I kind of understood the hate against, like, AFK players in the game, like, robots versus humans, because that game is, like, actual PvP, and, like, you're actually going up against, like, other players, and if a player you're going up against, like, AFKs a lot, and you don't, then you're obviously gonna lose that battle. But, like, in this game is all about teamwork. Like, there's no PvP, there's, like, no competitive aspects, no nothing, and, like, people are just still, like, just fucking hating on fucking AFK players, like wanting to rip their throats out, which I kind of found super weird, because if a guy is like AFKing all night at the coin table and getting like thousands and thousands of coins, then he's helping me, you know. If I get into a match with him, he's helping me. Like, he's not taking away from my experience, so I do not understand all the hate with these AFK players. I mean, you know, at least if you hate AFK players that much, at least there's a button on the table where you can pay 37 whole Robux to fling all the AFKers away from the table, which will probably ruin their grind, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, man, that's a little side tangent. I don't know why people hate AFK players that much, because in this game especially, they don't really harm anyone. People just kind of hate them for no reason. But yeah, that side tangent aside, yeah, the game is just pretty cool. Yeah, go play it. I didn't have a lot else to say. The link to the game will be down in the description below if you want to check it out. Yeah, highly encourage you to check it out. If you like strategy games, if you like complex games, if you like tower defense games, then yeah, go play it. Join the group and go play it. And that's really all I have to say. So see you later everyone. Goodbye.